Today on Independent Wrestling Profiles, we're talking with Bruce Thunderstein. When did professional wrestling first enter your life?
So the furthest memory I have going back is, I believe it was the WWF Attitude game on the PS1. And I do remember that being too complicated to figure out. But by the time SmackDown 3 came around for the PlayStation 2, I was absolutely hooked on the WWE video games. Funny enough, my earliest memory, I just remember going through the soundtrack, I think it was, of the WWF Attitude game. And then you'd hear I think it was like Billy Gunn's music. And it was like, I'm an ass man. And I was so young and I was like, they said the A word. But, I don't know why. That's still in my head. But that's just the case. And then, I was really big into like SmackDown 3, SmackDown 4, SmackDown 5. So I think it was I can't remember what number 3 was called, whether that one was Know Your Role. And then I think number 4 was like Shut Your Mouth. And 5 was Here Comes the Pain. And I think around that point, I started watching SmackDown and Raw too. I think like my furthest memory back as a fan was watching Stone Cold and Booker T have a brawl in the grocery store.
Okay, that was a good one.
Yeah. And for some reason, like that just stuck in my mind for so long. And I'm pretty sure I still remember when I think Shane McMahon brought WCW, in to invade WWE. But yeah, the grocery store is just a memory that's been ingrained in my head as something so special.
Okay, so it sounds like you played the video games actually for quite some time before you actually started watching the product. Was it just happenstance that you started playing them? Somebody rented, a friend had it? Like, how did you actually... Because I know for me, I would have had to be interested in wrestling to pick up a wrestling video game.
No, I think it was friends that had the video games. And then, I really enjoyed it. It's kind of fun when you're just beating up on your friends online like that, a little bit safer. When they say don't try this at home, you can do it on the controller all you want. So... yeah, I don't even remember which friend introduced me to it, but I know at some point I got it, and then I believe it was called the multi-tap for the PS2, where you could have 4 people play at once, which was revolutionary. No, I guess it wasn't because the N64 had it. I'm going off topic, but to be able to play with 4 friends wrestling with a control scheme that I could understand at the time, it was awesome.
Well, not to get too far into the weeds with video games, but I had a Super Nintendo multi-tap, so it definitely goes way, way back.
Oh, yeah.
So now that you've been exposed to it and you've started watching the actual product, who were some of the performers or what were some of the matches that really captivated you and made you even more interested than what you were seeing in the video game counterpart? So I'm not entirely sure why, but my favorite wrestler when I was a lot younger was Chris Jericho. I liked the lightning he had on his tights, his silly little ponytail when it was above his head. I love the Y2J phase of him. The music was really awesome to me. So it was just like everything I think about the character back then, and watching him do a lion salt. And I was like, oh my gosh, it's a backflip off the second rope. Like, to me, that was the coolest move ever. I mean, I know moves have come a long way since then, but to me, the lion salt was my absolute favorite. I was also big into Chris Benoit. I was both the Canadian Chris's back then. And I don't even know why. He was a lot more technical. Watching the German suplex was a lot of fun. But instead of favorite matches, what really honestly captivated me back then was all the different promos that guys would get to have. So when Jericho had the highlight reel, The Rock, doing all his catchphrases, or his famous one when he turned heel in Toronto and he's got the guitar and just absolutely trashing Toronto in what I think is one of the best promos of all time. And, Stone Cold Steve Austin just interrupting people going, what? And just, it's funny that stuff is really what stuck with me over their matches. I mean, I did love watching Stone Cold, offer somebody a beer, cheers them, and then give them a stunner. And that wasn't part of the match, but it was just, the memories and your favorite stuff of the character. So. Did you at any point during that time have a chance to go to a live show and actually experience the atmosphere of a crowd and the cheers and the jeers and everything like that? Or was it mostly just kept to a distance through the television screen?
So it was mostly, when I was younger, it was kept through the television screen. And even back then I was as much as I wanted to watch more of it, I was almost too nervous to say, hey, mom and dad, could we rent a pay-per-view, through the Cogeco cable box or whatever, could we have a party and watch SummerSlam or WrestleMania? So, and I think those were the two that I did get. So I got the WrestleMania in Toronto, and then I did get, I think it was a SummerSlam with John Cena versus The Big Show. I think that was actually for only like the United States title. It wasn't until high school, and I believe I was getting volunteer hours at an event for, I want to say it was like raising funds for a local politician or something like that who was running for mayor, and he had a silent auction there, and they had 2 tickets to WWE Raw, and then I was like, oh, I really want those tickets, and so through the silent auction, I just bid for the tickets because I guess I wasn't used to, just going on Ticketmaster and being like, oh, WWE's coming to town. I should just buy tickets and go. No, it was just like, oh, there's 2 tickets here, win them through the silent auction, go watch the show and have an amazing time. So
don't keep me in suspense. You got the tickets?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Oh yeah. I got the tickets. And it wasn't like it was front row tickets either. We were still lower bowl because I think it was at the ACC still. And then I think we were able to, where you were kind of like right next to the stage. So you can kind of see them coming through, like before they come through the curtain and then watch after. And I still remember feeling the heat from the flames when Kane hit the ring and just seeing the size of the Great Khali. He was on the show at the time. And like, it was just so incredible and fun to watch. And I don't even know if I was still watching it on TV at that point. I had an idea who mostly everybody was there, but just not, watching it week to week. There's obviously some stuff that you miss.
Would you attribute any percentage of that to your actual drive towards the industry? Like, did that night have an impact on you where you were like, there's something more to this than I actually thought even before? Because once you feel it, it's a whole different beast.
Yeah, you know what though? The only thing is, because the guys are so big and jacked, at the time for me, it's just like, I look absolutely nothing like them. I'm clearly not eating whatever they are. I don't have the same genetics. So at that point I was still like, and I was never obviously I'm not like a 6'4", 220 pound guy. So to me, I didn't stand out enough to be able to go that could be my future as much as I loved it. And then it really wasn't until sometime during COVID when you're getting shorts and interviews where, the business is a little bit more open, where I remember listening to The Rock going, or he was talking about WrestleMania 18, him versus Hulk Hogan. And then they weren't sure who the crowd was going to cheer for. So me, before knowing anything about wrestling, was thinking everything, every single step, every single move is rehearsed and they plan it out all ahead of time and it's all memorized and it always goes perfect. And whatever they plan is exactly, or whatever they plan, in the back is exactly what's going to happen, or whatever the writers or whoever is planning it, they come out and they do exactly what they're supposed to do, and that's it. But when he talked about it, it was just, we don't know if they were going to cheer for me or boo me. So we kind of went out there and felt the crowd. And that's when I was like, oh my God, this is like improv. And I was like, oh, okay, this is interesting. So it's not all like perfectly scripted to the T. And that's what really kind of captivated me. Cause I think at the time I was going to, I guess, a few Second City shows and seeing what they do on stage, kind of making all this stuff up in improv. And I was like, you know what? Improv is something I want to try. But growing up, I was also very involved in sports as well. So at some point they're like, wrestling is violent improv. It's a very athletic improv. And that's where I kind of was like, now, you know what? That's something that I want to try. And so that's where it was like, okay, I need to find a wrestling school, seeing if there's anything near me, because I have next to no background on any indie wrestling. And that's kind of where I found the drive to, okay, I got to find a school. I got to go try this out for myself and see what it's like and see if it's something for me.
Did you have a difficult time finding a school? Was it a matter of just Googling it and there was something in your backyard? Like, take me through the procedure from the trigger event to the first day in training.
Yeah, no, it was very much a Google. And I guess when it came down to it, I was like, oh my God, there's 2 schools within driving distance of me. Like, they're both, I think, within half an hour of my house. That's like really close. And it's closer than any improv school. So that's a bonus. So I was like, okay. And it was really like a 50-50 shot. I think I looked at the Facebook pages. You do a Google search. There's really not a lot of Google reviews on schools. But I remember I think they both had a website. And it really, really was just like a toss up in the air. And I reached out to one of them and it was just kind of like, hey, what do I need to come attend a class or anything like that? Do I need specific gear or something like that? Do I need wrestling shoes? You know what I mean? And I picked Off the Ropes, which is a school by Sabrina, Kyle, and Jeff Black out of Kitchener, Ontario. And they were like, you should bring shoes that you're not wearing outside. So indoor workout shoes, wrestling shoes, whatever you got, if you have them. And it's a bonus if you have knee pads or elbow pads. So I think I picked up like some cheap knee pads, and I did pick up wrestling shoes at the time, thinking like, this doesn't work, Facebook Marketplace or whatnot. But I will say, off the ropes, they're very good at easing you in to wrestling. They're not speeding you through. Okay, this is how you got to take your first bump. You've got some, I guess, easy warm-ups to start. So it's like, okay, we're going to work on a front roll. And while that's not something you've done since elementary school, most likely, they'll kind of walk you through how to do your forward rolls, your backward rolls, your judo rolls, 3/4 rolls. And so it was, as somebody who's not, I guess, a natural athlete, so I learned, I've kind of known that all my life for the most part. But when I was training with two other guys at the time that were a little more athletically inclined, you kind of get humbled, and you're like, okay, you learn and you want to push yourself, that little bit harder to try and keep up with them. But it really was a great learning environment to start. And, I'm just very glad I picked it, because I figured if it's a tough school that was going to kick my ass, I wasn't sure how long I was going to last. So I think I started when I was 32. So I'm not young. I know a few people have started older than me. Diamond Dallas Page started around my age. So that was, that's nice to hear. But I guess I've had a job for like 10 years and whatever. So I'm like, my main job is I got to show up to work the next day. So something where, if I show up to work with a broken leg or a broken rib or something like that right off the bat, it's not going to look good. I got to still bring in the money. And unfortunately, I mean, you just know that everybody isn't making money in wrestling right when they get started. So I was very lucky with my intro to the business.
Shout out to my hometown, Kitchener. I am just curious. So it was the improv element that really drove you forward and gave you the confidence to pursue it. At what point did that kind of trepidation about your physical stature fade away? Because obviously we know the end result. You are a wrestler. You got through that. But was there any sort of point in time where you kind of felt like, you know what, my size is not actually a detriment to me?
Yeah. So I think funny story, we'll say. I thought that when you began wrestling training, that by the time you're done wrestling training, you're going to look like a wrestler. I thought that's how it worked. That is not the case whatsoever. It's on top of wrestling school. You have to be hitting the gym on your own time. You have to be watching what you eat to still get that wrestling physique. So while you do still develop an in-ring shape, I guess we'll say, like you get used to the speed and the endurance and everything like that. It does not make you look like Scott Steiner. So that was a hard reality I had to. I'm still facing, almost 3 years in the business, is that I still don't look like Scott Steiner. But I think one area I got lucky is when it came to my character and using something like a shake weight. This doesn't equate to Scott Steiner or Hulk Hogan 24-inch biceps. It equates to, Bruce Thunderstein, somebody who's 5'9", 180 pounds. It's more believable that the shake weight is with me than it is with somebody that's absolutely massive.
Well, keeping in mind, you got to keep the examples in perspective. Not everybody looks like Scott Steiner. A lot of wrestlers don't look like Scott Steiner, right?
Yeah.
I think the beauty of wrestling is that everybody looks different. And what does a wrestler look like? It looks like the person who's in the ring in front of you, right?
Yeah.
So take me through some of those days of training. What were some of the challenges that you faced? What were some of the elements that maybe came a little bit more naturally to you?
Ooh. So I'm gonna be honest, the character stuff came a little more natural. That's the easy place to start. Back in elementary school, we had to, give speeches once a year that were like 3 to 5 minutes. And you had to memorize it. And I really enjoyed talking about a topic. And there's obviously people that's like the worst thing you had to do every school year. And they just had to get up there, read for the paper from 3 minutes, and then just, throw it down. And I was like, no. I want to make sure that people know that the Toronto Maple Leafs were great, or like advertising is really cool. I think I won my school competition with that one. So I really love talking, I guess, in a public setting to people, being passionate about something. And it's helped with the character perspective of that. And a lot of times, that fake confidence when you're going out there to be able to sell people something that they absolutely don't want. whether it's the shake weight, little scrub daddy. Not that scrub daddies do come in handy, but usually you're not looking for one at a wrestling show. So there's a place and a time for everything. But and then definitely some of the harder things. I wasn't the quickest. Like running the ropes, I remember that taking me abnormally long, and it's not something that people would think takes a lot of effort. It's like, you're just running and hitting them and running to the other side and hitting them, but it's getting a proper footwork down. It's getting footwork down in general, and then getting something that looks natural as well. So I remember like early on the first time, I think I would do it in like 4 or 5 steps to go across a 16-foot ring, which may not mean anything to you, but some people would be like, it just doesn't look right or whatever. And then as you keep running them and you try different things, you find something that works and you go, okay, that looks natural. You look like a wrestler now. So that was like a weird thing. And it also hurts too. So that's the one thing that people I think underestimate the most is how much the ropes hurt when you go to hit it to learn to running them. And you don't want to, I guess it depends. From a learning perspective, you don't want to have to hit them, 20, 30 times the first time you're in the ring, because you can feel it in your back, in your upper back, your lower back, or your hiney, I guess is the nice way of putting it. And you will have nice, I guess, bruises that, depending on how consistently you hit it, you'll have a nice line across your back and lower back and stuff like that. And you're like, that was painful. I prefer not to do it. But then you somehow learn that the human body builds up, like a tolerance to it and a resistance. And after you've run it a few times, all of a sudden it doesn't hurt anymore. And it sounds so ridiculous and weird because nobody really teaches you stuff like that, but it happens. So you almost feel superhuman just being able to hit the ropes. And then if you had a friend that wants to get in the ring for the first time, you're like, oh, try it. Let's see how long you can run it for.
It took me a very long time as a fan to realize that people weren't actually springing off the rope, that the rope was more just them stopping as they're pivoting, then bouncing off of it like a trampoline. So it's not outlandish by any means.
Yeah. It looks like an elastic, right? When Chris Jericho does his lion salt, it's like, oh, that looks so easy. Or when the lion salt that Logan Paul just did last WrestleMania, where he made it like 3/4 of the way across the ring there.
Yeah, his athleticism is insane.
Yeah. I hate the guy, but oh my God.
Yeah.
That's insane.
So we're absolutely going to talk about the character, because I think that's inevitable. If anybody sees you perform, that's a big part of it. But before we get to that, I do want to ask you about kind of like your first matches, your first experiences in the ring. Can you take me through the process of getting booked on your first match, even if it is just like a battle royale or something, but like even seeing your name on the card, getting, like just that feeling of like almost, hey, this is kind of what I was working towards in school. Now I'm going to get to see it coming into fruition.
So I remember in training, because the other guys picked stuff up faster and they started before me, but I was never in a rush to get to my first match, which I think was nice, because I was just like, I'm just going to keep on trying to make myself look better so that when people do see me, hopefully I don't look like somebody who it's their first match. I had my first match, I think it was 9 months or so into training. I started in October of 2022, and my first match was June 30th of 2023. So I think it was about 9 months. I'm just not doing the math in my head right now because I'm thinking like, I got to keep the conversation moving. But about 8 or 9 months in, I was given an opportunity. So my school used to work closely with 365 Pro Wrestling, which is a great promotion out of Guelph. And they hit up little towns in Ontario every once in a while. So there was a show in Tottenham, Ontario. And I was told I'd be on the card, and I got to face my trainer, Jeff Black, in the first match. And at that point, I wasn't used to calling anything out on the fly, or I guess out in the ring or anything like that. But with him, he training me, he knows my capabilities and everything like that. And I was hoping we'd have lots of time to go over the match. But he was setting up the sound in the ring for the show. So about when the show started, we got to talk about it, and we were number 2. So it was very much me listening to him out there and, kind of just doing what I'm told to do, doing my best. The other thing that was wild to me was they were like, oh yeah, you got your headset, right? Yeah. Okay. So we'll just plug it into the sound system and we'll give you a live mic before your first match. And I was like, they're just going to give me a live mic. I could go out there and say whatever I want to. I knew that it was a family friendly show. So there is stuff I shouldn't be saying and I won't say, but it was interesting to just, I remember starting behind, I think it was behind the merch table, just because to me, that's where the salesman would start, not behind the curtain. And then I come out and then I just start jaw jacking some of the crowd, telling them they don't look great, they need a BT, getting a few boos that way, and then finally getting in the ring, and then had my first match there. And it was quite exhilarating. Like, I don't remember a lot from the match. I do remember my head getting slammed into the turnbuckle 30 times. That was a specific one. I was like, oh, we're doing 10, right? And then it was like, no, we're going to keep on going. I was like, all right. And it was, a lot of simple moves and everything like that. It was a good first match. My second one was actually 4 off the ropes, where they ran their first show. And that one was really special to me because I think I had like 8 or 10 friends come out to that one. So that one always stands out in my mind as a favorite because I had all my friends coming to support me right off the get-go. And it was another match against Jeff, but it was kind of, I guess, we'll call it a no disqualification match. So on top of, some moves that we did, and again, he's bigger than I am, so I'm not doing a lot of moves to him, but we were able to do baking sheets and stuff and hit each other in the head with that, hit each other across the back. And I guess the big spot of the match was he was on a table on the outside of the ring, and I got to climb up to the second rope from there. It was a high ring at least, but I got to frog splash him through the table there in front of all my friends. So that was like just a very memorable moment for me that I'm grateful that I was given the opportunity to do. And then from there, I was lucky. I know Clash Kincaid and was one of the first guys to see my promos and come across me on Instagram. And they brought me out to Oshawa, and I had like a match out there at the time. So, I was very thankful that, I guess, the way I was told to portray the character and do it, because a lot of times they'll tell you, don't put out promos before you start wrestling. Like, that's a bad idea usually, but I know there's like always exceptions in wrestling. So, but I was told, no, put out a few promos of this character that you're going to do. And it was, right around the time of my first match. So it wasn't, months ahead of time, but it was, get the character out there, show them, your character work. And then it got noticed. And then I got very lucky that people were like, oh, this guy's interesting. And I've been lucky enough that different promotions taking the chance to bet on, a match that'll do well for the audience with Bruce Thunderstein.
Let's talk about that character, because that's kind of an inevitability. So you clearly have this like salesman kind of idea. And I was very fascinated the first time I saw it, because I came up even before the Attitude Era, where it was a little bit more common for wrestlers to have additional professions, right? Like if somebody was a dump truck driver, or they were a repo man or whatever, which I always found funny. Like, am I supposed to believe you're not a good enough wrestler that you have to make a second income doing something else? And we've kind of evolved to the point where it's like characters are becoming more just like people that they are, not professions that they are. But you have a very old school feel with that. But it fascinates the crowd. People get into it, usually to boo you. So kind of take me through the mentality. Like, did you kind of always know that this was someone that you wanted to portray? Was it just something that you thought, I can pull this off maybe because of that whole physical stature? Like, how did this version of Bruce Thunderstein come to be?
So I got lucky. The idea came to me from training. And my first thought when I was told, hey, do you think you could do a salesman pitch, was, that sounds difficult. So, you know what I mean? It's like, why everybody else just gets to be themselves and just like an excited version of themselves. But I was kind of lucky that, it's not like I didn't shut down the idea. Obviously, it was more or less like, okay, let me give this a try. And so I can't remember if it was just like a generic promo class or whether it was just homework for the school at the day. But it was, like, see if you can cut a promo as a salesman. And that's just what one of the coaches, Lenny Lilac, saw in me. I guess whether it's good or bad, or no, it's definitely good. I can't lie. But, a lot of times people will like say they see something in you. Sometimes it's a roast. Sometimes it's a compliment. And sometimes I think maybe that's how you can get lucky with finding a great wrestling character. So I was literally told to try to cut a promo as a salesman. So I went home, I watched, Vince from ShamWow, the Slap Chop, what is the Flex Tape, anything that you can find that's, whatever is the TV salesman, and then cut a promo like that guy. And then they watch it and they're like, oh, and then I guess you don't necessarily see it yourself, but I mean, me just being a trainee and my limited, I've seen a few things on WWE, but I don't see what's out there. I didn't see what's out there on the indies at that point. So it was him seeing that it was something special and saying, this is what you have to do. So I'm very thankful that the right idea was passed on to me. I didn't blow it off. I was like, yeah, this is something I'll try. It sounds difficult, but let me see, if we can make something of it. And I've been lucky that it's been working and it's been so much fun, and it's just been building where I don't know how we got onto the shake weight at first, but there's like the South Park episode of the shake weight, which is absolutely ridiculous. I remember seeing the commercials. I remember watching a bunch of remixes of the Slap Chop commercial back before memes were actually a thing. And it was just saying, "You're going to love my nuts," over and over. Or like they just, edit the actual commercial to make it sound ridiculous. And so I was always a fan of how ridiculous TV salesmen are and how ridiculous the commercials are, and what really grabs people's attention from those. But it's just been so much fun when you find uses for a shake weight or a ShamWow. And I've been lucky enough to come up with the Bruce juice. That was an original idea, so it's nice to have your own stuff. But it's not to say that Prime didn't inspire this, to say like what's this drink coming out of nowhere that they're charging like $4 a bottle for, and it's just sugar juice, and you just hear different things about it, and you're like, it's kind of good, but like, how's it any better than Gatorade or Powerade? Okay, let's come up with my own. And then my next newest product that I haven't used in the ring yet, but we have Bruce's serpent oil. So I know it's serpent oil. It's not, people say it's snake oil. It's not, it's different, but there was a big thing last year with baby oil and it kind of getting a bad rap. So that's where I think when I find things that get a bad rap, I almost want to take them and make them my own and then resell it, because obviously there's a market. So with the baby oil market going down last year, thanks to somebody, there's a big gap in the oil market. So if anybody needs thousands of bottles of something, you can get thousands of bottles of Bruce's serpent oil.
Oh, that's fantastic. And I mean, like, more people need to realize, like, wrestlers are salesmen. They have to sell themselves as performers. They have to sell themselves as crowd entertainers.
Yeah, it's in the most literal sense of itself. You're a salesman. Like, I do remember hearing, like, you don't necessarily make a lot from your matches, so a lot of wrestlers rely on their merch sales. So there was, like, a very direct connection there. And then one of my first ideas was, how can I directly help other people, sell their merch? And the best thing to do was, if you're a heel, is put over a BT and have, like, an average-looking T-shirt. Well, I try not to make it average. I wanted it in gold and silver, but it just very much says Bruce Thunderstein on it. But if I can get people to boo this, if other people have their shirt and they can go, "Here's mine," and they're going, "Yay," then hopefully then that's going to help somebody sell their T-shirts at intermission or end of the show or whatever, go and say, "And this shirt's like much better than yours," and then I'm literally helping other people, move their merch, and then hopefully helping myself then by helping others.
No, that's amazing, because one thing you learn about the indies as you get further into them is just how much people work together and how hard they try. Like, high tides raise all ships, right?
Yep.
I do want to ask you, outside of those matches that you had mentioned, is there any other particular highlights that stand out from your career, whether they be matches or even just, say, particular crowd interactions, or, maybe you had a starstruck moment that never would have happened if you weren't in the industry? Like, what are some of the things that really stand out over your career so far?
There's a few things that I'm so lucky that there's so many different things that are memorable and really awesome. Like a few weeks ago at a show in Stratford, somebody brought a shake weight to the show for the first time.
Yeah. Yeah, that guy was like 2 rows in front of me.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So like, I saw that and I was like, oh, I have to be I can't be nice to you tonight. But I'm like, I was so, happy to see that somebody like went out and found a shake weight, because they are not easy to find anymore. But they found one, brought it to the show. And, there's only one person with the shake weight on the show. So I was like, that's for me. And that's super special. A few matches, like, I love working like Pretty Ricky. Like, I've had 2 really fun matches with him. And same with London Lightning, actually, for whatever reason. Just, I guess they have like really great minds for wrestling. So they're really good at bringing some ideas of how to use, your character with their character and everything like that. And I've been really lucky to have a lot of those, because when you have a character, people can see themselves, like, I guess, interacting with you, and how you can best make the characters mesh in what could be like a comedy sense or in a serious sense. But you have people believe like, oh, okay, this is a realistic thing that this person would do. I remember I got to work Gabriel Fuerza and Van Landen in a match once, and there's a spot that I get to do sometimes where I get to put a ShamWow over somebody's face and then put water or Bruce juice onto said towel, so it makes it hard for them to breathe. Now, you can't do that in a one-on-one because you will get disqualified for that, but in a triple threat, something like that flies. And it was Gabriel Fuerza with the idea of, okay, why don't you do that to him and then check to see if he wants to give up and then put it back on there and do it again. And it's like a simple thing, and it's so silly, but it seems so genius to, try and hurt somebody, check, see if they want to give up yet, and then literally just go back to doing the same thing. And that's, I don't know, it's a spot that I find fun because, one, I get to use some of my props, we'll say, or some of the great products that you can buy for yourself at the store. And also there was other stuff I wanted to add to that. But yeah, Pretty Ricky and London Lightning, going back to that, they were two guys I really enjoyed working with. One of the other matches that I was really proud of was the 6-way scramble at Northern Crown. That was one in recent memory that went, I guess, extremely well. And it was a lot of fun planning. I got to work with, a lot of big names around Ontario and I guess from the US in that match there, and seeing everybody put their ideas together and putting together the story. The idea was, at first, I'm going to come out as a bad guy. And if all went to plan, even though I came out as a bad guy, we would have the crowd cheering for me by the end of it as kind of like an underdog. And I guess you never know whether the crowd's feeling you or not. And it could have gone the other way where you just get booed the whole time, or even worse, you just get no reaction. I came out, ran my mouth, and immediately Jesse V put me through a door that was set up in the ring because I ran my mouth against an absolute monster of a human being.
Yeah.
To put it nicely. So he drilled me through a door right off the bat to start the match. So I was out then for a little bit, and then I tried to one-up Jesse by hitting him in the back with a chair. That didn't work, so he picked me up and he chokeslammed me for the biggest chokeslam I'd ever taken. And that was another one that looked and felt pretty devastating, to say the least. And at that point, I think the crowd was trying to they started to feel bad for me, I assume. And then that's where when my next stuff came in the match after I recovered, and it took a while because those aren't moves that you can just get up from, even if it's the only thing you're taking. So after a while, they did start to get behind me, and there was what we'll call an audible in the match. So I was told to kind of steal the victory in the end. So that's kind of what happened. And it wasn't planned to happen that way necessarily, but because of how well things went throughout the match, it made the most sense with how the crowd was reacting to give me the victory. And it was very humbling and surreal at the time to be like, oh, okay, this is happening. Yeah, and then just the crowd rupture at the end, and the reaction from everybody in the crowd after really meant a lot to me. So I really owe those guys at Northern Crown a huge thank you for that opportunity to be in that match, because when I'm working with guys with 10 plus years experience and multiple of them, and all the talent they get on their shows, it means a lot that they make room for somebody that's only been around for almost 2 years at this point, at least having matches. So really grateful for that. I know just one more, I guess, little story of something that really sticks out to me is something that's been great is at Dropkick Wrestling. I got to work with Cody Deaner a little bit. Just getting to work with somebody that's, been on TV so long, that's such a good role model and so good at working both TV and independent shows because he's been doing it for so long and he just knows how to get the crowd in the palm of his hand. That's been an honor there too.
That's awesome. And just to touch back on Pretty Ricky, for anybody who's paying attention right now, check out Kill Ricky, because Bruce is practically a Kill Ricky all-star at this point, and it is definitely worth the price of admission, which is free if you're in the area.
Yeah, which is free, yeah.
Yeah. So let me ask you then, what's next? Where would you like to see your career go next? What do you want to check off the wrestling bucket list?
One of my biggest goals would definitely be at some point to get on Mystery Wrestling with Evil Uno out in Quebec. That's just because those shows are just so different, but they're so funny, and they get like quite a few like my favorite characters and people to watch on the indies. So that's definitely like a future goal, is to be, I guess, recognized enough to say, hey, this guy like would fit the brand of Mystery Wrestling. And, that would be such a fun opportunity, I think, just because it looks like everybody's just having so much fun there. And I mean, in the end, I think everybody wants to end up in, WWE, AEW, or TNA. And, it would be awesome. But I try to look at it, one step at a time. So, whether it's just working a new show in front of a new crowd, being invited back to a show just means a whole lot, because it means that you obviously did something well enough that people want to have you back. So little things like that, like getting invited back to certain promotions that you've worked, sometimes it just feels really good and is like, I must be doing something right. And then you just, I guess, it comes into like believing in yourself too, and, trusting yourself and everything that you're doing and what other people are, giving you ideas with that you're running with, because, it's working.
That's a very, very grounded answer, and I really, really enjoy it. How about for the next question, though, you avoid it and just go off the rails? Because I'm going to go to the wrestling interview cliche and ask you, who is the dream opponent? You don't need to justify it. You don't need to explain how it would happen. Stick to active performers, but who is the dream opponent?
See, what's crazy is I'd almost prefer to just have like a segment where it's like a promo off, where you're just like in the ring against somebody, like watching MJF and CM Punk in the ring going back and forth for like 10 minutes. I don't know if I'm at that level where I can do 10 minutes of back and forth, whatever, but I just love, you really feel what they say. And so a lot of times it's almost like the build up to the match for me is almost more important than the match itself. So if I ever had the chance to be in the ring in a promo with, John Cena's not going to be active after this year, so we're going to go, that one's off the table. But with somebody younger like MJF going against him on the mic, or CM Punk, it would feel surreal. And I'd probably crumble under the pressure, being like, no, this, like, I can't believe this is happening right now. But guys like that can really build up a match beforehand is, I think, how I'd want to, I guess, see myself like as a dream opponent. It's kind of building up to that match versus having that match. So maybe it's MJF at this point. Like maybe that's the most realistic, and he's fantastic in everything he does. Like all his matches are entertaining. Even the other guys I really like, they're not top of the card or anything like that, but the MXM collection, Mansoor and Mason Madden, like they're just a lot of fun watching them do their fashion gimmick in the ring. So even those guys would just be incredible to share a ring with.
I love the idea of MJF though, because he's supposed to be a rich character and you got a lot of stuff to sell him to. I could see that being a great promo spot.
Yeah.
I want to close out with the same question that I ask everybody, and it is sometimes a little bit tougher to answer. If you could go back and talk to a younger version of yourself who was just getting into wrestling or debating getting into wrestling, what piece of advice would you give yourself that could maybe even assist somebody who's on the fence today?
You know what? You got to believe in yourself. And that's the biggest thing, because I think, it's always a choice whether you're going to do something or not. And you really got to believe that you can do it, really trust yourself, put in the effort. And if anything, it could be like just set small goals for yourself. So it could be something as watch a match every day, shake your shake weight, just one extra shake every day. But absolutely. Yeah. Believe in yourself and try and set little micro goals so you get a little bit better every day. And, before you know it, you can look back and you go, I learned a lot.
That's awesome. I'm glad that you threw the shake weight in there too.
Yeah.
you had to get the shake weight in there.
Yeah.
Before we sign out, can you just let people know once again who you are and maybe where they can find you online if they want to follow you and just keep up to date with what you got going on?
Absolutely. Well, I'm Bruce Thunderstein. I'm the best salesman, the best TV salesman, the best wrestling salesman. I'm the best salesman of all time in the wrestling business. And you can follow me at Bruce Thunderstein on Instagram, TikTok, and you can add me as a friend on Facebook. That's the best place to keep up to date with me. If you want to see me in the near future, I don't know when this episode's coming out, so I'll give you a few dates a little bit in the future. If you want to see me, you can see me May 24th at the Kitchener Auditorium for Off the Ropes. That is going to be a huge arena show. I'm going to be against Jack Vaughn, which is going to be a huge challenge, something I'm extremely looking forward to prove to the veteran you don't have to be a vet to shake weight and win wrestling matches. After that, I know you can. After that, you can find me in Guelph June 14th for Death Proof Show. So the rules are a little bit relaxed in that promotion, we'll say. So whether I want to douse somebody in juice, hit them with a shake weight or something like that, that's where everything in the bag can come out. So it's a great environment to see Bruce Thunderstein. While it hasn't been confirmed, there's a good chance that on June 29th, I'll be back in Toronto for a certain promotion that I've mentioned earlier. So if you just skipped ahead, make sure you go back and listen to some of the promotions I mentioned. And August 9th, I will be in IPW in Woodstock. So there's a few places you can see Bruce Thunderstein. If you want more dates, absolutely follow me on all the socials.
All right. Thank you so much. I really appreciate you doing this.
No, thank you, Sandro, because I appreciate the opportunity. Thank you for what you do. Thank you for having a podcast to give us a platform. And yeah, thank you for your time.
Thank you for tuning in to Independent Wrestling Profiles. Please help out the show if you can with a like, subscription, or review. We'll see you next time.